Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Housing. Does he stand by his statement that the rate of new house builds in Auckland, quote, is the highest it's been in years and shows the progress we're making, unquote, given the average number of building consents issued for new dwellings in the last 6 years is 4,408 per year, compared to an average of 9,055 from 1999 to 2008.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Yes, because the 33% annual increase in new house builds in Auckland to May 2014 is the highest annual growth since records began in 1991. The member's selective use of averages hides the fact that the collapse in Auckland's new house build rate occurred between 2004, when there was 12,000 houses built, and 2008, when there was only 4,000. It is significant to note that the worst quarterly Auckland house build rates since records began in 1991 were at the end of 2008. In December 2008, there were 233 building consents in Auckland. In May, the latest figures, there was 611, i.e. treble the number last month.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Why is it, if his special housing areas are so successful, that not a single new house has been built in them that anyone's living in? And why have Auckland consent numbers dropped to 611 in the last month, including apartments, down from 697 the month before and down on the same month last year, when Labor built twice as many dwellings when we were in government compared with his abysmal record?
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, the member is hiding the fact that there was a massive collapse in house build numbers from 12,000 a year back to 4,000 a year in Labor's last 5 years in government. Now, his colleague, the Minister of Finance, was only complaining in the House last week that there was too big a growth in GDP in residential house build, that it was happening too fast. There were too many new houses, and I think that just illustrates the level of contradictions of members opposite.
Speaker.
Supplementary question, Jami-Lee Ross.
What steps has the government taken this week to further help housing supply in Auckland?
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, yesterday Cabinet approved orders in Council for 41 special housing areas. This process zones areas residential in 7 weeks, in a process that previously took 7 years. Mr Speaker, Cabinet approved a greater area of new land for residential in 1 day than what occurred in 9 years of the previous Labor government. Let me say that again. Yesterday, Cabinet approved a greater area of residential land in Auckland in a single day than what members opposite approved in 9 years.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Does he stand by his statement on becoming Housing Minister, and I quote, "My ambition in housing is to make the dream of home ownership a reality for more New Zealanders," unquote? And if so, when will he acknowledge that he has completely failed, with the Massey Index yesterday showing that house prices and interest rates have gone up so much in the last year that affordability across New Zealand has declined by 7.6%, even worse in Auckland with a decline of 9.1% and 10.6% in Canterbury, all since he became the Minister of Housing?
Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, I'm delighted that the member has raised the Massey surveys on housing affordability so that I can give the member the figures. Nationally, housing affordability was worst in all centres in 2008. In Christchurch, it's improved by 31%. In Auckland, it's 25% better than what it was in 2008. Nationally, it's 35% better than it was in 2008. And in Wellington, housing affordability is 44% better than what it was in 2008. I rest my case.
Speaker.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
What is he doing to deal with the consequences of his failed housing policy in the regions where homeowners are losing equity in their homes as a result of first home buyers being shut out by LVRs, with Southland down by $22,000 in the last year alone, while house prices continue to spiral out of control in Auckland and Canterbury?
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, I note that according to the same survey that the member wanted to quote, that housing affordability in the regions is 40% better than when interest rates were 11% when we came to government, and in the course of the 9 years of the previous government, average house prices in New Zealand doubled. And so I simply ask that member to reflect on the failed policies of the previous government that it is taking time for us to work through. I just note, for example, development contributions were changed by Labor's legislation in 2002. It resulted in them trebling up to $60,000, although I note Labor has now done a backwards flip on its policy.
Point of order.
Point of order, Honourable David Parker.
Mr. Speaker, we all know the election's coming, but I thought election speeches were meant to be for the campaign trail, not answers at question time.
And that's not a valid point of order. Order, I'm on my feet. The interesting thing, if the member had some time, is to ask the library to then detail the length of questions that are being asked by one of its members. I wouldn't mind that as a comparison.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Can he confirm the panicked phone call from the local government minister about an hour ago to confirm Labor's support for the development contributions bill at third reading? And if so, why is the government continuing to play politics with Auckland's housing and growth like they did with the RMA reform bill?
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Dr Nick
Mr. Speaker,
Smith.
the more extraordinary story on both development contributions and the RMA is that the previous Labor government spent 9 years making changes to the RMA and changes to development contributions that actually resulted in house prices doubling. Let me give a simple example. Labor removed the appeal rights on development contributions. We're going to put it back. Labor changed the RMA that meant that regional policy statements overruled councils on issues like metropolitan urban limits. And it is a very late comer that Labor now accepts that its changes to the RMA and its changes to the Local Government Act were wrong.
Playing politics.
Question number 10. Order. Question number 10, Gareth Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Conservation and asks, did New Zealand officials